Welcome to where the furniture isn't always the best, but them views, they are amazing.
It's a 13 for y'all. 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 It's a 13 for y'all.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 13th floor where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. It's your man B Jones here on the mic tonight, and I got Coach K up top. Coming to you first, baby. What's happening?
Was good. I'm still trying to get used to that, but all is well, man. Just still trying to get acclimated in the new residence and all that good stuff. I think there's a creature in our attic. You can hear it at nighttime moving around in there. So
What's that show you was talking about, BJ? What's that show you was talking about, BJ? Lovecraft Country or something?
Lovecraft Country, yeah.
Hey,
got
well, let me tell you something. I'm gonna craft my way out this country if there's something loving up in there. That's what I'll tell
There
you.
it is. There it is. All right, what's happening, man?
I'm good. It's been it's good. I'm good. But I want to make sure before we go further, anyone on this thing watching right now to YouTube, I need you to subscribe and like right now. Don't smash it. Just lightly touch it and click the like button for me. I appreciate that.
There it is. Simple request here. Simple request. You must be good, man. You rocking that Eagles hat. Very proud.
I will go down in flames with them. It doesn't matter. But yes, this is a rough season. Rough season. We are not flying. We are
Hey, listen, man. The end of that last game, I was like, oh, okay, somebody just sprinkled some fairy dust out there. And then that last play call, I was just like, you got to be shitting me.
At least you can see it where you were. I couldn't see
Here's
it.
the part. The part that burns me up is that our former quarterback is leading the Chicago Bears to their best season in the last who knows how many years.
First of all, he ain't leading shit. I'm still pissed off from 2 weeks ago when they won that fluke game against Tampa Bay. The defense is doing their thing as they've been in the past, but I'll let that, I'm still salty. Whatever.
Still a quarterback with a winning record.
Yeah. True that. BJ, what's going on, man?
The Bears are.
I'm good, man. Like, look, we here. Weather's been trying to get us down here in South Florida with the rain the last couple of days, but we're going to prevail and push through because there's brighter stuff on the other side. Let's go.
I agree, man. You got a flag? I didn't notice the flag in the back last week, man. Where'd the flag come from?
That's Grandpa, man.
Oh, okay. Easy.
My maternal grandfather. Actually, both my grandfathers were war veterans. But this is from my grandfather, my mother's side.
Okay. Appreciate them for that service, man.
World War II D-Day, baby.
There it is. And Frisco Fresh, man. What's happening?
You know what it is, another beautiful day, checking out the skyline as the sun sets on another day in the 305. Man, shout out to Lynn. She is our first purchaser of some 13th floor merch, so we want to send her a big shout out, salute. We got 3 shirts coming your way. She got all colors, man. I really appreciate that. That's definitely what's popping. But I mean, I'll jump right to, it got me so hype, it got me motivated and frustrated. I'll jump right into it.
Let's get this thing started off right.
You know what it is. Dive in.
Anybody wants to sponsor me some 13th floor gear, just shoot us a message.
There it is. Let them know in the comments, baby. On
That's
YouTube
trifling,
after you tickle the subscribe button. So here we go. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I'm going to say that again so y'all can get it in the backside. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. I am divinely guided with each step I take. All things are working together for good in my life. I am light itself. Darkness was never meant for me. It can never cover the light of my soul. I enjoy my life to the fullest. I choose love, joy, and freedom. Open my heart and allow wonderful things to flow into my life. I know a lot of times it may seem like, man, I feel like that's almost something he said before. But a lot of times I have to give you guys the same thing in different forms. It's like you could take a potato and you can make French fries, you can make mashed potatoes, you can make, potatoes on gratin. There's a billion different things that you can do with potatoes, but at the same time, it's still a potato. And so I like to give y'all a bunch of different ways to digest the same message so that you can have a message that actually resonates. Right now, we're talking about you being a light, being able to fulfill and understand that all that you are doing, experiencing, and having happen is for the same purpose, reason, and that's for you to be better, experience better, do better, and be fresher, baby. We out here. Let's get this thing started, shall we?
There it is, man. That's a great frustration right there, man. Kudos to you, bro. Kudos to you. I love the energy. That's how we get things going here on the 13th floor, man.
Set,
Coach K.
Mine ain't set, baby.
Absolutely, man. Especially that spiritual. Say it one more time for me.
I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
Right. Spiritual being having a human experience. The alignment factor in that is very huge. And, you have to do some soul searching and some research outside of the podcast to connect those dots. But very, very big message.
So that my man from Watchmen played the character, just won.
Yeah. Played Mr. Manhattan.
Yeah, he won. He just won an award for that role. Just shout out real quick. I just saw it. It brought back to me all the stuff lined that up, man. So
yeah, what was that? An Emmy, I think.
Yeah, it was an Emmy this week. The end of last week. Sorry.
That might have been 2 weeks ago.
It was that long ago? I just saw it this weekend though. Sorry.
Shouts.
Got you.
One time.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that movie. I remember y'all.
Come on, man.
Man, I know, bro. I know, man. I'll tell you about the movie I did see. I saw it.
It was a series,
right? Like I saw.
I watched the whole series.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a series. Even
series.
better.
It's an HBO series.
Oh,
But
man.
you know what to do. I know you don't have HBO. You know what to do.
Yeah, man. We're going to get hooked up later on the podcast and everything. We're going to be all Gucci. All Gucci. But I'm going back to UK, man. You said you and BJ had an interesting time with the alumni event, man. Let's start there.
Yeah, man. It's very interesting. So I don't know if anybody else feels like it, but I feel like the whole Black Lives Matter social movement, police brutality, all of that stuff is starting to quiet down again. Seems like it might be losing some steam, but it's funny how things just continue to happen over and over again. And one of those things is you always are bewildered as a Black person as to how, I would venture to say, a lot of white people, they're just totally clueless to what happens and what we go through. And our alma mater is not immune to that. Mm-hmm. That possibility. So we got tapped by, somebody we all know and love at UM. She rallied the troops because they were looking for a focus group to interview about their experience while at the University of Miami and things like, what impact did the university have on your life? Do you feel like the university was connected to you as a student during your time? Like that type of stuff. So as we always do, and you can go all the way back. I guess you can go back to me and then move from there. There's just a tree of student leaders and, I would say influencers, to use a current term, that from then to now, we all stay in contact. We all keep in touch. So the people that were tapped for this focus group, we all know each other. We all talk to each other on the regular. They gave us the option to join the focus group that was just general alumni, or to join the one that was supposed to be alumni of color, which, Brett, I talked to you and you already said it, man. How do you feel that alumni of color? At the time, I didn't even think about it. It's whatever, just things that we're used to, people calling us all types of stuff. As I said before, nobody's ever asked us to vote on this stuff. Like, it's never been on a ballot. Like, if anybody's ever seen on the ballot, are we called a Negro, the American Negro, African American? you know,
It's funny
color.
how it just transitioned through
It just
time. Every
somebody
time.
just changes it.
Right.
I don't know who, but somebody
Somebody
just
trying to be
changes it.
politically correct. That's all that is. Trying
What'd
to
you say?
somebody trying to be politically correct. That's all it is.
But who?
It's funny. I always think it's always some white person
As a
too
whole.
who comes up
Yeah.
with
Oh,
this new
absolutely.
moniker
When
who's
is it
just
wrong
like, you know
to say
what?
Negro? When is it wrong to say black? When is it wrong to say African American? There's somebody who just says, I don't think we should go that route no more. It's probably somebody illegal. And then they
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
at the institutional level at least.
It's at like a HR like convention or something. They vote on it or something and figure it out. But anyway, so we all coordinated and end up being on the same focus group. And the poor lady that was running it and running the questions, she had just come from the general alumni focus group, which ended up being majority white folks. I think it was all actually.
I'm pretty sure.
But she was in shock and awe when she started asking us questions and what our answers were, and us talking about how, yes, the University of Miami is super diverse, but there was no inclusion. There was only what we forced and what we created. And for the greater part of the institution, no, we weren't supported. We just created a support network amongst ourselves of people who had figured out how to do things, and we would just share amongst each other, almost like an underground railroad right there above ground at the university, and who to go to get this and who to go to get that. And it was amazing just to see this lady start to turn red, because it was the furthest thing from her vision of possibility at the time. And for me, I'm just like, man, how does this happen? Like, even in that conversation, I ended up telling her about a time we were in the UC. We were upstairs outside the United Black Students office, and there was a girl that was part of Commuter Student Affairs or whatever it was, CSA, and she was terrified to talk to me or anything like that. And eventually we come to find out, I have a conversation with this girl, and she says, well, before coming to UM, I had never seen a Black person actually live and in person. I had only seen them on TV.
It's wild.
Right? We're not talking about Alabama, who obviously they clearly have a lot of Black athletes and whatnot. I don't know what the rest of their student population looks like, but we're not talking about someplace up in the mountain somewhere out in the sticks. We're talking about University of Miami, and we're having those type of interactions and first times.
It's funny because when I went to Miami, I felt the same way, because that was the first time I had been on a college campus with so many BMWs and Mercedes and Humvees and such. So it's like I was awestruck, like, damn, I had never seen anything like this before. But I say all that to say it's amazing what people's experiences and how that will feed into, ignorance isn't really like the right term for the negative connotation, but when you just don't have you just don't have that experience. I don't know where that young lady grew up, where there was not one single Black person to see live and direct. I mean, they have Black people in, Wisconsin and Kansas. So that's kind of crazy, but it just is what it is, man. And unfortunately, that is what bleeds into the lack of empathy and understanding for our experience. And it's unfortunate that it's not really a real way around it until you start having those type of dialogues and conversations. You said your moderator, she started turning like beet red, I guess, because y'all was giving her, so much heat and, putting her on the hot seat for things that, she's not quote unquote responsible for, but she has the platform and she asked the question. So you gotta, live with the answer. What was her, like, I guess, ending reaction, or if there was any a resolution or action steps to come out of that?
I wouldn't say there's a resolution. Like, now she's clueless because she's not expecting to get these responses. So they're absolutely collecting this information for a reason that I would say wasn't exactly disclosed to us per se. but they're supposed to take it back to whatever council or committee that they've created to do whatever they're doing. But that was the one thing that we asked, like, hey, can we be updated on what this is going to be used for?
Right.
As usual, to reaching out to our same channels to get the stuff come back, because based on what we said, we know there's going to be some reverb from it, and we just want to see what that reverb is. But I don't just want to just highlight our alma mater, because I have a feeling that that's what's happening in every organization, business, institution. Similar things are happening where all of a sudden now they're trying to lead these diversity and inclusion conversations, one, realizing they're not qualified or equipped to lead a diversity and inclusion conversation. Two, trying to, and I think for some of them, they have the best of intentions. They actually want to make a change and make a difference, but they just have no idea where to start, how to even have a conversation with Black people, Spanish people. I think right now, the best group that they're able to connect with is the LGBTQ group, because I mean they're just huge, you know what I mean, and they cross all the color barriers and you know, whatever else. And obviously I think it's different when you start talking about our LGBTQ plus community, because they have people that have been kind of undercover for a long time that are in positions of power that can push the agenda forward. Whereas for us, being undercover was never an option, right? You can't remove your Blackness and go do whatever, right? In order to push the agenda. So it's interesting. And one of the things I saw recently was this YouTube series called Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And it's just interesting because something like that will gain popularity because you have now somebody that is independent from your organization or your institution that you're getting insight from without shedding light on your organization or institution. Right? Because the last thing that some of these institutions, organizations, or companies want is they start getting exposed and realizing, we're part of this, right? And it's ingrained in what we do. So we don't want our own people to call us out, but we'll go to this independent person that, you know, we're not obligated to do anything for this guy that we're probably never going to meet.
And when you have that type of response, it just calls into question the validity of the whole effort. Because if you're not able to take a hard look at yourself in the mirror, have a little bit of accountability, you know, what is your workforce going to look at? How is your workforce going to look at you? Like, you're not truly serious, because you can admit behind the closed door that you have an issue, but you're not ready to truly address and assess this problem to make it better for those who you claim or that you're putting on this program about.
That's the difference with these companies who want to be part of the push to say they're doing something versus those that are looking to look internally to make a change and make things right. So are we, and again, that's institution, that's individuals as well. How many individuals have we seen blow up in popularity, blow up because they're doing something that fits the mold of what's going on and fits the cause of what's going on right now? But the real motive behind it, the real push is for personal gain, is not for a deeper understanding, a deeper connection, a deeper root cause analysis for change.
Yeah, I mean, it's them. It's like when they say, "Hey, man, you're so articulate. You're not like them. You know what I mean? You're not like the other ones," and think that they're providing some type of compliment, right? That's exactly why she turned beet red, because their normal assumption is like, "Yo, you guys were African Americans at a prestigious university, right? And so you had to have had an amazing time. Like, yo, think of how lucky you are just for that. So it had to be an amazing time. I bet we're going to get some amazing stories of how, wow, at least we weren't, we weren't scraping by and but it's like, no, we were still scraping by. It was still crazy. It was, it was still a hard time. It was nothing of the, and it's weird, like people get this, especially non-minorities have this picture of like when they hear somebody, oh, I was the first generation to, go to college or something like that. Like it was some super ceremony and everybody, like it was just, roses and dancing your whole experience or something. What it's like, nah, man, it was fighting tooth and nail, and not only the pressure of just school, but also the pressure of it not being cool to do what I'm doing. And not even sometimes understood as to why my focus is for that instead of, a trade or something else. You know what I mean?
But, and not only that, so yeah, you were the first, which means that you were also the first not to get the same level of student aid as the
Mm-hmm.
non-minority students. So you're coming out with more loans,
Exactly.
and then you're not getting the same salary as the
Exactly.
non-minorities that come out and graduate. So you just behind all,
Yep.
by the time you graduate, which was supposed to be something prestigious, but you actually ended up in a very interesting situation once you had
Yep.
that degree.
It's true. There's a lot of money being thrown at Sally Mae that I could definitely use to do other things.
And it is
Damn right.
a revolving, that's what they're in this perpetual motion of right now, with it being such an exposure moment of everything right now is boiling over, and that conversations, especially race conversations, are getting had, almost aggressively now, and really being put out in the open. And there is a real line in the sand being drawn of feeling like, no, there can be no racist tolerance. You know what I mean? That has now trickled into them wanting to be able to have all these diversity, inclusion, scenarios. But again, they're getting slapped in the face when they realize they have been, in a sense, they don't realize how much we hide, and we don't allow ourselves to be who we truly are, that they think is our natural state, and think that it's like praising us when we feel that we are having to be this facade of ourselves. You know what I mean? Instead of knowing that we are the same way, like all minorities have their friend and family version, and then their, corporate work version of themselves. And it's like, it shouldn't be like that. And I don't believe that white America really knew and understood how much that is true. And especially across the board, they thought that, oh, well, maybe there was a few who have to do something like that, but don't realize like that is our life. Like that is what we do. And no, it is not through comfort. It is through adaptation of survival that we do that. And that's what they don't realize and understand.
That definitely was one of the takeaways, I think, in all the scenarios. We talked about many different scenarios that happened while we were on campus, right? Through the span of years of probably about a 10-year, 12-year span that we were talking about, different events, different things that happened. And again, none of us would, at the end of the call, none of us said that we would take away or change the experience, because a lot of times what we walked away with and the people we became were through those experiences. How we deal with individuals, how we lead, how we just go day in and day out and handle situations were developed because of the necessity to be able to adapt while we were there while we were there in leadership position, while we were there dealing with the ups and downs and all the situations they came through day in, day out. Too many to name, too many to go through over the years, but everything from just being on the academic side to the social side. There were so many things that made us who we are. Like I said, it was some days, some weeks, some years was hell, but we all made it through. And even looking this, we even looked around that circle that was there, but looking at this podcast, it was because we found individuals like ourselves that supported each other through the process, whether that was United Black Students, whether that was a fraternity or sorority, whether that was just friends on campus that held you accountable for stuff and made you a part of stuff and brought you along. but also knowing one of the points that was made was we lost a lot of people along the way that should have finished with us because the supports weren't in place. And that's something that I would never forget, because I remember some of the same individuals that we talk about that helped us. There was a lot of individuals that fell through the cracks that we couldn't help everybody.
Yep.
They got there for one semester and we never saw them again, or there for 1 year and didn't have the means to come back. But there were those of us that, if we had known all the situations, there were those of us that had already navigated those systems that probably could have helped a lot more people finish out their time there.
Yep. So let me ask y'all a question. We're gonna move on from that for a little bit, but who do you guys think is the group that's benefiting the most from the social justice equality movement at the moment?
Consultants.
Consultants, okay.
Reason being, I mean, I don't think that we've seen the fruits of any of this stuff yet. I mean, I've been on several webinars where the conversations are taking place in, excuse me, I've been on webinars with the Greater Baltimore Committee where they're talking about how certain large companies, take Under Armour for instance, have all of these social programs and things that set up. Well, most of those programs are already set up. Lyft, another very socially responsible company that was on that webinar. And then you had a small business, Black-owned small business in the Greater Baltimore region. But all of it is centered around like diversity, inclusion, and getting more African Americans, Black folks into positions of power and helping them feel more included in the company. Go ahead, you want to say something?
So from a profession standpoint, yes. I was more so talking about from a people standpoint.
So I'm gonna say gender-wise as women, more specifically, I'm gonna go around and say right now, today, it's a toss-up between white and Black women. And I have reasons for both sides of that coin, but gender-wise, I say women have benefited the most because the conversations have led to more of the diversity, disparity that have always existed. But now when you throw race in, it's open the lens even more for women. Again, I'm not upset about the conversation. But again, when I analyze everything that's going on, that would be my response to it.
Yeah. So I would say I agree with women. I'm gonna go and say that white women are still ahead of minority women. But what's funny is that when you think about the fact that Black men gained the right in this country to vote before white women did, and you look at how much white women have been able to do since they gained the right to vote, that's eye-opening.
Well, didn't the Black men, once they got their votes, they did everything they could to take it away? So even
they did. You're absolutely right. But so I think Black men got the right to vote 13th Amendment, maybe 1867.
67, something like that.
67. Women didn't get the right to vote till I think the 19th
1900s.
Amendment, 1920 or so. That's crazy. And then to look at again, you have this movement where in the last, I would say 3 to 5 years, you've just seen the rise. And you could go back to Sarah Palin and, then and obviously Michelle Obama and all these things. What does it take? And I'm going to be selfish. What does it take for the Black man to see that type of rise at this point, that type of progression?
That's
a whole change in the system, that a reformation of the system has to occur for that to happen, in my honest opinion. but 1919 ratified 1920. Just for the statisticians out there who's going to fact check this, because there's always somebody in the crowd. Love you guys to keep us on point. But when you think about it, that the whole system has to change. Because again, I go back to the quote: how do you expect to a system to be fair to you when it wasn't even intended for you, right? When you go back to the everything that's going on, and even so, the comments. Fun enough, the comments have coming up more so during this whole Supreme Court justice conversations that are going on in the background, in the backdrop of all this going on. And one of the comments from Hillary Clinton to this lady, I tuned out that conversation so much. I forget her name right now, because there's so much other things going on.
Amy Barrett, the actual judge?
Yeah. So her response was that basically was to the tune that she wouldn't change anything in the Constitution, whatever. But the fact that, and Hillary Clinton and a couple other people were responding to her that, well, if you take that stance, that means they weren't even talking about women when they were talking about that. You're talking about the freedoms and all this stuff. They weren't even including women in that whole thing. So if your legal stance is that was a good time to go back to a follow-on or a foundation of, you weren't even included in the stance that it was taken during that time. I say that to say, if you look at everything that was written, everything we're talking about gaining rights and equality from over the years and stuff, well, these are things that are added to. So the bigger system never really intended it to be a part of initially. Whenever you're adding on, it's like you're counterbalancing the foundation that was there. You got to dig out and do the whole foundation, right? So you think about the Constitution, all these pieces that are there. It's a real, I don't want to say throw the baby out with the bathwater, but almost to that point where you need to start over again with what it is to talk about freedom, to talk about rights, what that really means, and how do you hold people accountable over the years, and that's legally, financially, and all the other pieces that come involved.
Yeah, bro. It's the slick language that is involved in the base of our Constitution and everything else is no different than a house, and we can't expect that we would have a house that you're building all these extra pieces on top and on side and everything else that's going to stay sound and constructed. It's going to eventually fall apart, and that's what's happening right now. We can't continue to try to make these little adjustments to the Constitution. It needs to be redone from the ground up because the foundation is bad. The foundation is based on not including women, not including minorities, all of these things that are slick language that they use, but that's what it was based off. That's what they were doing. And so until we have a real conversation and reconstruction around that, it's always going to be based and built for us to be on the back burner and in the back seat and to not have the true opportunities to have that excelling.
We were talking about the Civil War real quick earlier. I'm gonna go back to Lincoln. Like really, the intent of it, he's on record saying if he could have ended the war without freeing the slaves, it would have happened. Right? That's on record. Like there was no intent for that to happen. So everything after that is just that was a catalyst of the start of at the national level of what had to go. And again, still that didn't even go into effect. I mean, you still have all the stuff we talked about over years. Stuff didn't happen years down the line. I mean, come on now. The intent was never there.
The intent was never there. And it was more so about, and it's just what it is now. We always say you want to make change, follow the money, affect the money. And that's what it is. The South was so wealthy that there was no way for the North to overtake and run with their agenda if they didn't cut the money.
Yep.
And the money was free labor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. That's why all this wealth was built. But I don't know. We didn't answer the question. So, and we've said it on here before, like we're talking about the Constitution, but I think you got to start at the local level and work your way out to the national level. Because if you look at it, that was almost a national situation. They were trying to do something on a national level. And because of the local entities in the South. And then if you want to talk about Jim Crow, like all these were local things that were running, that was keeping the oppression and racism alive. So I think as long as you can try to tackle it as a national level, there'll always be pushback. And I think we'll end up having another civil war at some point. If we talk about restructuring the Constitution.
I agree.
I think there needs to be steps into it, I guess. Kind of like, it's weird, but in my head right now, I kind of play it in a sense how they're taking COVID recuperation and how, you know, the different states, like we have different states as different examples of how to handle stuff and what to do and what not to do. And it's that same type of situation where there needs to be states that take action of trying to implement, which is actually a good segue into the next segment with Ice Cube. As far as, I think the biggest thing is always having tangible pieces of progress, right? Having something that past us just saying we need it, we need to be treated better. We need, better opportunity. We need to have what is that? What does that mean? How is that, how does that go about? How does that come along? We need to have those pieces of documentation to be able to identify and understand, but then also be able to hold something accountable for those, those things taking place. And that's the biggest thing. We have a bunch of conversations and a bunch of talking, but it's like, well, what is what are the action steps besides just, hey, we're going to have another meeting next week and talk about this stuff some more? That's always the biggest thing. Where does rubber meet road? Where can we find actual actionable items that will help, create progress, as opposed to just consistent conversations of talking about it, but not having anything that is like, yo, this is what we do. This is where we go. This is how we do it.
Before we go to the Ice Cube segment, I do want to try to answer the question. I think y'all brought up excellent points when it comes to the Constitution. But I do think that for the Black man to see the prominence, it goes back to identity. And I think that we have to have a better sense of identity of who we are and kind of build on it from there, because the political scene is going to be the political scene. Changing the Constitution or anything centered around reparations, giving away land, things like that, I agree. I think it starts a civil war. I was listening to a video from a young man from the nation. I can't remember his name, but he actually geographically through locations in the U.S. and where the prime fertile land. It was a partial history lesson on how the Europeans came, took this land and everything else, and what would be adequate for the Black Americans in the country and where we should end up settling, kind of start to right the wrongs of slavery and taking the land from the indigenous peoples and such. But I think the difference between the Black man and the Black women, like, they get up, they stand up, they shout about it. Like, they've been very boisterous about these things. I don't know that I see that from us as men, or I see it more now than we have in the past. I think we're ascending to that right, but I think it really starts with the identity and understanding our rightful place within this country or within the world, and working to achieve those things. Until we have that great sense of identity and understand workings of the world, we'll never get organized enough to be able to strategize and implement, the necessary actions to get to that.
That's another thing. I think that as well. Another thing that we always talk about is we are so unorganized. Like, there is no call of anything or way to ensure, like, hey, this is something we need. So, hey, boom, put out the call to go after it, or that real sense of community. And it's just so lost. And so it's such an ice skating uphill battle.
I won't say that, because I feel like the resources are out there. I don't know that enough of us have that mind state to get to that level of understanding.
I know enough of us don't. That's why it's an ice skate, because I know even with like, you think of just something simple as far as conscious rap. You know what I mean? And rap not just being, drugs, partying, and killing. You know what I mean? Like that not being the essential key components of popular rap music. You know what I mean? That even that little thing that you will not even. It is very rare that you will even be able to have a conscious album, let alone feel that you hear conscious singles or you know what I mean, music that is providing some type of message or something past just, hey, party party party, drug drug drug, drink drink drink, kill kill kill, sex sex sex.
But we
It's like,
understand why that happens though,
I don't
because
even
of
think you got to get that deep into the art though, right? I mean, just take current day situation and maybe I'm pulling their strings here. I look at the data that shows, we talking about COVID-19, right? Quarantine. The data that shows the disparity of death, of long prolonged illness, things that come with blacks in America. Yet, as soon as things open up, where are our people? Clubs are opening up. You see these brunch parties that it's got like hundreds of people, and I'm like, we know better. We don't do better. And again, everybody has to make the choice. I'm not trying to bash anybody, but when I see pictures, like seriously, sometimes I think, am I overreacting? Like by still keeping the watch over stuff, and we're very picky about what we do, where we go, who we interact with. Like it's a limited number of stuff like that we do, and even if do some regime do something, we're very picky about what we do with the kids, right?
mm-hmm.
But again, when I see, I can't wait for the club open up, or people are hopping up and buying tickets to Hawaii and things like that. When they said Hawaii was opening back up, like people are, the tickets are cheap, you should go. Like, nah, man.
I don't.
We're not. Like we do stuff like put ourselves in positions sometimes that because we just want to be part of stuff that goes on, of just get out of ourselves, get out of our own way. Again, it's my personal opinion. I'm sorry, but I see that, and I just see the crowds. I'm like, we know it affects us disproportionately. What are we doing to combat that right now?
I am always curious. I don't feel like travel, like a vacation right now, is gonna be fun. Like I don't feel like it's gonna be like on some yeah, I can get some cheap tickets somewhere, but I feel like I'm gonna have like 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 I'm gonna feel like ants are crawling on me the whole time, no matter where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be a happy-go-lucky, comfortable situation just because I bought some cheap tickets to Hawaii. Because the whole time I'm walking on eggshells, feeling like, damn, was this the right decision? Did I make the right decision? Was this something smart to do? And that's always the biggest thing to me. I don't understand. Like the risk is not worth the reward to think, okay, I went out and got drunk at the club tonight. But now, 2 weeks later, here I sit and I realize I done got, 50 of my closest people sick, and, 4 of them already died. Like, I just don't understand, like, how that computes.
Again, just social pressure. You just hear
Yeah.
people saying, "Oh, we just can't stay cooped up. We have rights and we should be able to go out and blah 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 blah."
You have all
Social,
the right in the world to go catch that thing.
social pressure works for everything except social justice.
No, that's something that has to be
right
taken.
Yeah, that's gonna be another
Right?
t-shirt.
Fresh, you wanted to hit onto the Ice Cube thing, man. I do think that's a great segue into this as I put my hands back in my pocket. Right? So the contract with Black America was caught up in a bit of controversy over the last week or so because of the Platinum Plan and how people were trying to spin Ice Cube working with both sides of the aisle to ensure some level of attention is brought to the issues and what we would consider are some of the fixes to those issues within the Black community. So we want to have, Fresh, just give us your take on it real quick.
Well, first off, what happened was the Republican side, one of their head people was real slick and pretty much put out a tweet that left an open insinuation that made it seem like Ice Cube, like, hit them up and helped them work directly on Trump's platinum plan or whatever for Black America. What actually happened was, they reached out to him because they had heard about his plan, and he had been reaching out to both sides, Democrats, Republicans, everything regarding his plan. Anybody really who would listen. And the Democrats had pretty much a stance of, look, when we get into office, we'll speak to you about it. But right now, we've got other things to worry about. So pretty much just kicked it to the side. Republicans, very slickly, of course, waited until this type of time, reached out to him, said they wanted to know more about it, and then put out, I don't know all the ins and outs. I'm assuming once they got there, asked them about his, told them a little bit about, their platinum, whatever plan. But, that was pretty much the gist of it. They had a conversation around it. There wasn't no, pacts or anything, made, or it wasn't like he went down and showed them exactly what they needed to include in the Platinum Plus plan and like help them draw things out and put his name on it by any means. But they were very slick in how they dropped, his, the fact that they had a conversation and made it more. And then it didn't help that the Roland Martin buddy on BET is extremely aggressive in his questioning of why Ice Cube did it. And I mean, they just put my dog on firing squad on the show and ate him up. And pretty much, like put it along the lines of, you're not an activist. Who are you to want to try to make a plan? And how dare you didn't, speak with some of these other civil rights leaders or people in the civil rights movement?
Listen.
Go ahead, Kay.
Y'all want to know what really happened?
What really happened, Kay?
It doesn't matter what really happened. Because this is the same foolishness as to why we can't organize. Because as soon as somebody steps forward with an agenda and wants to do something, they find a way to discredit them. And the discredit started with a silly tweet from 45 about what he wanted to do. And then guess what? We ran with the rest of it. Oh, Ice Cube's a sellout and this and that. And all these Black people on TV getting on there talking about this man and all types of stuff, when really and truly, somebody has to push the agenda. And all he's saying is, hey, look, don't vote for these jokers if they're not going to do something for us.
Period. I think my biggest gripe is just the consistent, what have you done? Like, so many people are quick to point this finger when it's like, man, have you taken the time to even read this man's plan? And even if it is not exactly the most amazing plan you think of, just writing down what he has and getting together those points, period, to have some type of tangible things that we can say, hey, these are points that need to be, spoken on and attributed to, is like amazing. And the fact that we want to try to knock him down or it was blowing my mind that people are trying to act like Ice Cube was a coon now and all this other stuff. No different than how they played Jay-Z with the NFL thing, where it's just like, wow, somebody's track record where like, especially like Ice Cube, his whole career literally has been based on it trying to advance and acknowledge, the advancement of Black people and all of this stuff, that you think for some reason now in the fourth quarter, in overtime, this man decides that he's a coon and it's all for nothing, that it's just heartbreaking.
Listen, man, listen, you know what, I can't stand it. There are people that I hold near and dear. I hate it when people say Barack Obama did nothing for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Like the amount of intelligent but like uninformed people that spew rhetoric like what you just said, or talking crazy about this contract with Black America, or
because here's the thing.
The guy we had that in the house said that.
Yes. The mover. Yes, one of the people that helped move my stuff in. Mm-hmm. What is ridiculous is that there are people out there that will die for Michael Jordan's legacy and to defend him. And it's like, well, wait a minute. does Michael Jordan have a longer standing impact on our people, or does the symbol of Barack Obama and what was able to happen, does that carry more weight?
Thank you.
And then if you really want to start measuring, how much has Michael Jordan done, and has he consistently done it for our people compared to just Barack Obama becoming president of the United States? Like, I just don't understand our scale sometimes.
But
No,
it's because we have the Jordan scale. What do you mean? People die over Jordan, son. Ain't nobody ever got no Obama's, dog. That's the messed up mentality that we have, and it's heartbreaking that we do that. That it's the wow. You really feel that just the fact that he was elected like that broke and made so much more possible for us. Like, there was never no time when I was a shorty that I truly believed I could be president. Never no time. Even though, people talk about there was never, I was like, man, it's not going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to see, like, there was never no time I even slightly thought, even when Barack was first campaigning, that I had hope, but I didn't think so. You know what I mean? That it's just like, man, just that alone is earth-shattering.
And again, look, self-sabotaging, I don't understand. It's just so deeply ingrained. We will self-sabotage ourselves. We will self-sabotage any possibility. We expect whoever comes out in the forefront with an agenda, a plan, or wants to lead, we expect them to be a saint and to just be, spotless with no record of anything. Meanwhile,
and not only that, they have to execute perfectly, because that's the other thing that everybody's on. Oh, well, Ice Cube ain't talk to this person, or he ain't do that, or X, Y, Z. And it's like, man, hold on. If you started a business, right, and in your infancy, because realize he started this like this year, maybe at the end of the last year, that like, yo, if somebody just had a spotlight on your business the whole time and was just every move that you make, it's no different. You know what I mean? You're not just going through starting some new business or some new opportunity, doing the right things every freaking time and talking to every right person at the exact right moment, every freaking day. It's like, yo, you're going to talk to some wrong people. I know one of the things they were bringing up was his alignment with, I don't even know the name of the group, but they're pretty much a group who's seeking reparations. Is strong on, saying they're looking to get reparations. I can't remember the name of the group, but like that was one of their focus things in, because one of the strongest pieces of one of the biggest points of Ice Cube's document is that the impact falls to descendants of slaves, and that it's not about just minorities, the whitewashing of minority progression, but really making sure it impacts, real Black Americans. And that, in one of the groups that he's aligned himself with, they have that focus, but then their real focus is like on reparations. And like Roland and them ate him up. Oh, ain't no reparations coming, this, that, and third. But it's like, yo, we still need to speak to the fact that we need to make sure there is some type of, tangible progressional pieces for us, that it isn't whitewashed through minority, rhetoric and speech, that it is about impacting us. It doesn't have to be reparations, but it has to be something that helps.
At the end of all this, it goes back to one word, and that's politics, right? We're in the time right now where politics is governing every single conversation that we have going around. What are the policies? What are the accountability measures? What are all the things built into the system, right? When you look at the conversation that was had and go back to simple basic facts, we're in election year, presidential election year, right? Whether this was local government or this is on the national level, when you want something to pass it on the political level, what you do, you either have a platform that you know is going to win, right? And right now, the way our system is set up, unless everybody turns out like they should, there's a possibility it could go either way, right? And I think we have to acknowledge that at the end of the day, there's still a possibility that this election, nobody knows how it's really going to shake out at the end of the day. Because numbers are numbers, and when people come, electoral college, you get all those conversations, many different things can happen. But if you want to ensure that some ounce of progress is made, that we can, if this is the possibility, that another 4 years can't happen like the past 4 years. So what do we need to put in place? Start putting in place now to ensure that the outcome is something that benefits the minority group, that benefits Blacks in America. You have conversations, and I'm not saying extend a hand that we're to welcome you in. We're extending the hand to say, hey, you need to come to the table and have conversations about all the people that you're going to make policies for. You need to come to the table and understand that there's not going to be another 4 years of it like this was. That there needs to be some things in place from both sides. And the fact that the statement was the Democratic Party said, yeah, we'll talk about it after we get into the seat. Well, that goes back to the conversation before about taking people for granted, right? When I know Biden was under the hot seat before about if you're not Black if you don't vote for me, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff rooted in that about people assuming things. Well, hell, if there's a possibility that either side may win, we need to have a plan. That agenda needs to be in place for both sides. If it's A, then this is B. We have some parts of this, but you need to make sure this is part in there too. Again, it's all politics, and that's
you can only get
playing.
you can only get there when you take the emotion out of it. And I think that's a problem with Black people is that we respond too emotionally sometimes to these types of things.
Man, I don't
Most
remember who said it.
times.
I posted on my IG. You can have the emotion or you can have the result, but you can't have both.
Right. And we're in a situation where you're playing against people that emotion doesn't drive anything that they do. They are results driven. We need another conservative view on the Supreme Court. Amy Barrett, I don't care what we said last week or last month or last year. Power is what we're using right now. So when you understand that and take the emotion out of it, I understand Biden said what he said. You know, if you're not Black, if you don't vote for me. Should he said it? No. Does it make sense? Absolutely. When you're looking at what the other option is, there's no fighting against that. You know, you have to get Trump out of office. So yeah, you got to hold them accountable. But just because a party or a number 45 dangles the carrot or something shiny in front of you just 2 weeks before an election or 3 weeks before an election, does it make sense to say, oh, they have my interests, more at heart than the next person? Like you said, BJ, it's politics. You got to be on both sides of the fence. I know people that donate on both sides of the fence because at the end of the day, it's your interests that need to matter. Now, I don't think we have a better chance if 45 stays in office of those interests being met. I think it's better on the Democratic side, but who knows? Things can change, people can change, but you got to take the emotion out of all of these decisions and really look at it for what it's worth and what we're trying to accomplish. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
got to take the emotion out. You have to. Like, I don't. People look at these politicians and they feel like they're supposed to be perfect, right? I think people forget Joe Biden is 77 years old.
all right.
Your 77-year-old grandpa, they saying whatever they want to. and you're not getting emotional about it. You letting it go because, they're 77 years old. They're going to say some crazy stuff, right? But what is the intent?
Right. Exactly.
I had, it was funny. I had one of my white associates. I'm tough pressed at calling a lot of people friends nowadays, especially a lot of these high school folks. That hit me up and pretty much was like, hey, I'm not trying to, get to know political thing or XYZ. But I noticed you got a lot of, he was pretty much along the lines, are you pro Biden? Are you just anti-Trump? Because I noticed you post a lot of anti-Trump stuff. And I was just like, pretty much like, I kept it to, Trump is a racist, end story type stuff. His reply was along, well, what about Biden's policies, for back in the day and XYZ, and he did it. And I was like, look, I'm not denying any of that, but if you want to think about where I'd rather put my trust as far as right now, if I look at Obama, like I think that Biden did all of that stuff that you want to try to bring up as so racist and that he was all, all of this. He did all of that before he was vice president, right? I think that Obama and his team for sure did a way stronger job of ensuring that he wasn't, whatever crooked views he had back then have been changed, by now, as opposed to whatever your little internet research is qualifying for what you think that he had for his 8 years under a black man. You know what I mean? That is just like, it's always funny.
But I always go back. That was politics of the day. People get on Clinton. People get on Bush. People get on Reagan. The politics that were done at that day were what they saw was best for that time.
Exactly.
People.
Period.
I'm trying to say people are not thinking the next president. People are not thinking 10 years down the road. Years down the road. So if I'm voting on something today, if the swing is about, we have to tighten up on drugs and
Exactly.
and prisons and things like that, where am I going to get the votes? Where are the people going? That was the thing, because it was the 80s. It was the war on drugs. It was criminalization of everything like that. Did it disproportionately affect blacks? Yes. But weren't most blacks the ones talking about our neighborhoods, this and everything?
Exactly.
What policies are we going to put in place? So the policies that were enacted at that point in time were the ones that ultimately put more blacks in jail. I'm not saying it is right, but it was Democratic or Republican, depending on who you voted or what the time. That was the politics that was really steering the country at the time and what was needed.
Mm-hmm.
So the policies that were put in place to quote unquote clean up the black neighborhoods or do this, yes, it disproportionately affected black folks. I'm not saying it's right, but if you look at the politics that drove it, there was a reason why it drove it, because people were screaming for reform. People were screaming for change. And the ultimate effects of that was, well, if you want this is going to be the thing you're going to have to give up. Unfortunately, we saw a lot of people out in those things, and that's from both sides of the political party.
Mhm.
Again, you can bring up things that were voted on in the 70s and the 80s and 90s. I get it. But again, would the same people vote the same way now if the same thing was probably? No.
Exactly.
And listen, once again, we talking about politics, right? So when President Obama was going to be in office and they chose Joe Biden as his running mate, it was for a reason. They were scared of Joe. They did not want Crazy Joe to end up being the president if they had killed President Obama, right? Look at it now. If Joe Biden wins, you don't think that somebody out there, well, if Joe wins, we're going to kill him. That's what we're going to do.
100%. 100. I think that.
Wait a minute, slow down. You can't kill Joe, because if you kill Joe, this black woman is going to be president of the United States. Joe must live.
Hey, it's just like people are doing with Trump and Pence right now.
Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it at all. Listen, these are strategic moves all day, every day.
Period.
But at the end of the day, look, don't put all your hope in whoever is your candidate. Don't do it.
Candidate, a party, or nothing. You don't put your hope.
You still got work to do after you cast your vote. Everybody that's out there, I voted with a little sticker. No. I continue to be involved. Let me see that sticker.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that's
we might
the
have
one
to make those.
count.
That might be another shirt we need to make. I
Make
will
it a
continue
button.
to be involved.
A button, so I can throw it on my
I see
jacket.
what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yep. There it is, man, ladies and gentlemen. All right. And I know you burning to jump in on this conversation, man. So I'm gonna throw it to you for the corner.
It's funny, man. Like politics is like to art is like BJ Sports.
Really? Yeah.
No,
We talk about sports and BJ fades to the background. We talk politics, you just see art just fade to the
because it's a lot that the whole podcast today was an area that I can say 100% I have not had to dive in completely. So for my corner today, I'm going to just focus on, there's some times where you're in the room as an observer. And it's okay to understand, listen, and see different views to understand the full story of things. Just because you haven't personally felt that emotion, that movement, that thought doesn't mean that it's not an actual thing for you, your culture, your ability. Just take it in and learn. I mean, the best thing you can do is learn. And today I learned a lot because, again, my human experience is different. I had a wonderful time. If I was in the call, I'd be the guy like, no, it was cool. But from my view, like it was just, and all of you know me, I somehow swerved through all that and didn't get any concerns. Now I did hear from each of you and all of your concerns you had there, but I never personally got that rock thrown at me. So it's to me, it's like, oh, well, I guess that happens to people. But at the same time, I have been way more confident now and way more involved in the political aspect of moving forward and the general elections and then the elections that come afterwards. I don't know the name of that one, but the one that comes every 2 years.
Midterms.
So getting involved with that, because that's where change happens. The president one is the big head, but a lot of those midterms where all the real things tend to change for you locally. But yeah. So ending off, sometimes it's okay to learn, observe, and get the information in and be a student to the conversation than having to force yourself in there and say something you don't know about. So open your mouth or move on out.
There it is, man. Before I go to Carol to close us out, man, I want to remind everybody to get this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, Vimeo, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We posted up on Anchor. We got the website coming soon. All right, did I miss anything? Subscribe.
You didn't miss anything, but if you're watching this on the old channel, at the end of this month, it will be going away. So please subscribe to the new channel. You should be seeing a link up top right about earlier, and I'm going to do it again right now. So you can see it, click on the link, subscribe to the new channel coming your way.
There it is. BJ, let me get your final thought, and then we're going to go to Kay to close us on out.
Art said something I want to make sure we don't overlook real quick. Yes, we have a presidential election out here, but there are other things on the ballot. You need to do your research before you go. There's judge elections. There's from the primaries you voted on. If you voted back in September, where were we at? Yeah, September. Like those runoff races now are going on now, right? There's other amendments at the state level, at the local level. There are other things on the ballot. So make sure you look at the ballot before you go request a ballot, do your research, because there are other things on there. Yes, national, we had to vote whichever way happens, but the stuff you vote on locally has to matter too. Don't go in there unconscious of what's going on locally as well. So please do that research.
Don't go in there like Larry Hogan and write in Ronald Reagan as a damn candidate. Ridiculous. Coach K, we on you, man. What you got for the people?
Man, listen, if you are a Black male that listens to this podcast, I am charging you with the responsibility of sending us your thoughts, your opinions on how we can be more relevant. We need to start putting our thoughts together, and there's no time like the present. So please, we would love to hear from the brothers out there that listen to this podcast. However you're going to do it, whether you want to reach out to us individually, if you want to leave comments, absolutely do it. But we gotta do something. This is sad. Like I'm embarrassed to say that we haven't made more progress than what we have. And I get it. The odds are stacked against us, but at some point we can't look at the odds anymore. We just got to move forward. Where's our 300? We need a 300 to overcome the odds. But on a bigger level, what I want to say is, and I'm going to get a little rhyme in here, but it's all good. But your victory will not be in the success of the presidency. The victory will come in your advocacy after someone is elected president. Let me say it again. The victory will come in your advocacy after someone is elected president. Meaning, don't just go to the polls and feel like, oh, I did my job. I'm good for the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. Or I'm good for the next 2 years. No, there's some stuff going on in your local community that you could impact. And somebody referenced it earlier, about the war on drugs and all that stuff. If we had come up with a way to handle that in-house, we would have needed somebody to create a law. We would have needed somebody that ended up incarcerating all these black males. If we could find a way to impact one another, influence one another, then we don't depend on anybody else. And if we can do that, then we can start organizing the way that we need to and gaining the influence over our own people. Because right now, anybody that tries to gain influence, we let somebody else influence us as to whether or not that's somebody that we should believe in or we should follow. Why is that? When will we change that narrative? Every leader we've ever had, they try to tear them down some way. And we fall for it, hook, line, and sinker, every single time. When will we realize what the greater good is? A lot of you are going to go out there and you're going to vote for the candidate that you think will be the greater good, but we won't cast a vote for ourselves. So when does that change? When do we start realizing that we're going to have to get behind people that look like us, that will be for the greater good, and know that the slander campaign is going to happen? They're going to bash that person. They're going to bring up things in their past, and we're going to fall for it, even though these folks have things that are so egregious in their past, and we give them a pass. Oh, that's okay. They're still gonna cut my taxes or whatever it's gonna be. We got to get smarter, and we got to make better decisions. And it starts with us as individuals. And you got to do the right thing. Focus on you first. You do the right thing. Vote for you. Vote for you to do the right thing. You execute your plan, and then we can talk about somebody else's plan.
Agreed. And that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening here with us on the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are
Amazing.
It's a 13th floor, y'all. It's a 13th